Let's get started immediately here, heading into Open Cup action. Lutz, thanks so much for taking the time.
Glad to be here.
So, Lutz, let's start with tonight, because I think everyone around the country is talking about this matchup coming into the game for St. Louis, currently SC2, to play in their first ever Open Cup game and to do it at Louisville, one of the big clubs in the Midwest at one of the best stadiums. How excited are you for what tonight can be?
Yeah, we already had a game, like around 10 days ago when we won away to Indiana in the Open Cup. So that was our first game. So it's our second game now in the Cup. And Louisville, it's the clear favorite. I mean, it's one of the USL championship teams in the last 4 or 5 years, which were outstanding. So I think we know our place very well. We want to go there. We want to play hard. We want to fight. We're trying to get a result because it's a cup game with a little bit of different mentality and rules. But overall, the big favorite is definitely Louisville, and we are quite happy to be the underdog here.
living that underdog life, which is great for a cup competition. You've obviously not played an Open Cup, but you've played in a number of cups on a number of different continents. How much do you love a cup competition?
Well, I think it's always special because it's just this one evening. And like today, under lights, it's always that special moments. So a league game is, in the end of the day, you're playing 34 times. You still can compensate mistakes or a bad performance. But tonight, you go out there, you try to leave everything on the field. And in the end of the day, it can go over 120 minutes or even into penalty shootout. And yeah, we saw it yesterday. Some of the underdogs, they really surprised, I think, the whole soccer landscape here in the United States. And that's the beautiful moment. So, yeah, definitely a special evening. And going to Louisville, beautiful stadium. I mean, nice setup. I think we will have a decent crowd. And not to forget, John Hackworth returns to his last club he worked for. So there is lots of good little stories within this game. And as you mentioned, it's kind of like a derby, a Midwestern competition game where we're trying to make our note already in the game and show what St. Louis City will stand for in the future. And Louisville, as the big dog here, obviously they try to defend their territory.
You mentioned that Midwestern culture. I think last night that was where the games happened. It was Chicago against Union Omaha. It was Detroit against Columbus. Now St. Louis SC. You are going to be a huge part of the fabric in that region. What have you learned about the sport in that area, the history of it, and sort of how your club can connect with it?
Yeah, I mean, I arrived directly and I finished my contract in the Bundesliga in August 2020. So I'm already here now since a while. And I mean, how enthusiastic people here in St. Louis about soccer is absolutely crazy. You feel that this word soccer capital, it's just not just a name. It really means something for the people here. And it somehow it catches you. Even me as a foreigner coming from a complete different setup, it's something special. And yeah, I think the mentality, how sport is played in St. Louis with the Blues and the Cardinals, where I would call it, we are a club you can touch. We want to be close to the fans. It's modest, hardworking, down to earth. That is our approach, and that's exactly how we as a new club want to be seen in the football community all over America, but also here locally. And that is how we're going to play: honest, hard, and trying to work till our socks on fire.
Before we get into how the team's played so far in MLS Next Pro, I do have to tell you, from my count, 10 St. Louis clubs have ever won Open Cup in the 100 years that it's existed. So you do have some history to follow with. Have you guys talked about that at all? Is that something people around the club have mentioned?
Yeah, I definitely was mentioned that we have big footsteps to follow as a new club. I mean, as you know, we're only playing today with our second string team or MLS Next Pro team. So that's not what is expected in the next years to come. But also this group, which is very young, very hungry, very motivated, I think they know very well. They do represent our club, our crest, and our philosophy. And I think we are ready to actually make St. Louis proud. If it's possible against Louisville, we will see tonight.
How have you made the year so far of the team in MLS Next Pro? Watching the team finally out on the field, as you said, after about a year and a half of it all being in theory. What have you made of the start to the season under John Hackworth?
Yeah, I think looking at the MLS Next Pro team, so far so good. You need to say, we played 3 games in the league. We won all 3 of them. We also won the Open Cup game away in Indiana. So having played 4 and won 4, you can't really ask for a better start. So that's pretty good. But I think the bigger picture, to be honest, if you're looking at the whole club, really counts here that we had a very good start with our academy teams, U16, U17 in the MLS Next. We're doing a lot out there in the community to really get the people going, to include everybody in the club, to give an accessibility for everybody out there to play soccer. So that's very important. And I mean, and as you mentioned, John Hackworth, he's a very big positive influence. I mean, I know John since a long time when he still coached the American youth national teams. And I was working in Europe, actually looking at lots of his games and lots of players. So I was very familiar with him before. And it's really great to have such an experienced guy around.
You've made some experienced signings, not for MLS Next Pro, but for MLS, obviously in Roman Berkey and João Klaas. Tell me a little bit more about João, what type of player he is, and sort of what the calendar is supposed to look like for him over the next year.
Yeah, I took actually Klaus myself to Hoffenheim in when he was 18 years old from Brazil. The same way I took Roberto Firmino from Brazil over to Hoffenheim, and he made a big career going on to Liverpool and being, in my opinion, one of the top players out there at the moment. So he's coming through the same way of recruitment system, and I think his problem, or you can't call it a problem, his little problem in Hoffenheim was that he always had players around which were more experienced and played at this Champions League top level before. So he went out on loan, and he did really well in Austria and Belgium and Finland. And I always kept in touch with him. I always kept on looking at him. And when he came on the market, when it was an opportunity to sign him, I think he really fits very well in our philosophy, which is high pressing, very aggressive against the ball. He's good holding the ball, but he's a good target man with an unbelievable high work rate. And in lots of European competitions, he proved that he can score goals as well. So I think he just is a good fit in the whole picture. And yeah, he will be arriving in July already when his contract will start. We'll play a few games as well in the MLS Next Pro, of course, to get the team gelling together. So our signings from now, which are they are for the MLS, but they will play already a part in the MLS Next Pro as well, because we want to use these 6 months extra as thoughtful as possible. And I think it will be a fun summer.
How will Bradley Carnell be involved with John Hackworth coaching this team, but him being the overall coach going forward?
I mean, Bradley made his first coaching license where I was his instructor in 2015. And I played against him in Germany, and I knew him as a person as well. So Bradley, really, you can say is handpicked, because everything we do here is based on a philosophy. Everything is based on a style of play, how we want to play from the youth into the MLS Next Pro, up into the pro team. And Bradley stood as a player as well as a coach in Red Bull exactly for that mentality, how we want to play. So it was a no-brainer to bring him in. I mean, he works now with me in the recruitment. I send him out a lot to the MLS games in the stadium to watch, to get a feeling, because it's not just about signing now foreigners. We need to sign top American players as well, who really fits into that what we want to do. And he worked in the MLS now for 5 years, so he knows everything here. He knows the MLS like his backyard, and that's very helpful for me as well. So the communication between him and me is basically, I think we see each other 10 hours a day, and the rest of the 14 hours we're on the telephone and we don't sleep. And talk to John as well a lot. So everything goes really much in one direction. We work a lot together, hand in hand, and that is how it also will go in the future.
You mentioned knowing MLS, seeing it. Over the last 2 years, we've seen 2 expansion teams, Austin FC last year, Charlotte now this year. What have you seen that you're taking or trying to avoid in terms of guiding St. Louis into year one?
Well, it's always easy to look at other clubs and find the negative, but that's not what I want to do. I know how difficult it is to start something from scratch. I mean, the other 2 teams you mentioned, they had a USL team before, or there was some kind of backup there. Austin a little bit different, more similar to us. So we decided to go a bit of a different way, and I think we are quite fortunate to have the MLS Next Pro exactly a year before the MLS starts. So I think it's always good to get that benchmarking going to see what do they do, how do they do it. But in the end of the day, everybody needs to find his own ways and have his own plan. It's never easy to come into a season with a completely new team, and that's the reason why some people wondering, why do they sign a coach 1 year before? Why do they sign all the expensive foreign players 6 months prior to or 7 months prior to the start? Exactly to make it easier for everybody in the club, to give them time to work together, to know each other, but also for the players to settle down, to put the kids to school, to move in their house, to feel St. Louis is their home. That you don't, I don't want to open the changing room on the 15th of January and say, hey Bradley, there is 25 strangers in there. let's try to bake a cake. It doesn't work like that. There is lots of ingredients, but I think they need to grow together, that you have that nice cake. And this is why we're taking that 6 months prior very serious and trying to work as hard as possible to have a good start into that our first MLS season.
You mentioned signing some big players, announcing the coach. What is the next big benchmark moment fans should be waiting for? What's the next big on the to-do list before the season starts?
I mean, we're still active now to try to use the South American and European transfer window. We signed so far officially 4 foreigners, maybe another one not official yet. So we're working on that, and we still have another few places left where we're trying to fill as quick as possible. But for us now, it's important to have very, very good overview over the league. What players will be protected, what players will not be protected, what players will be out of contract, what players fit in our style. So the American market gets more and more important in the next few months. And of course, we're starting moving in our facility and in our stadium in the summer. So that's a massive milestone for us. And not to forget, we will also bring our first and final academy team on the pitch as well, the U15s in the summer. So we have our little milestones, and then I think it's really baby steps moving forward, getting the boys who are coming over from Europe integrated into the system here, and then just really looking forward and celebrate that day when finally St. Louis will have their first ever game in the MLS.
It's an exciting moment. Tonight's going to be an exciting night. As Lutz said, they've already started an Open Cup, but this may be the biggest matchup that everyone's looking forward to this round, as Louisville City hosts St. Louis City SC 2 in Open Cup action. Lutz Pfannenstiel, the sporting director of St. Louis. Lutz, I hope you enjoy tonight. I know you said you're underdogs, but I think that's good coin management there from you. But it sounds like an exciting roadmap towards MLS, and we're going to have you on a whole lot more to talk about St. Louis as it all goes along.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for having me.